Hi, guys, and welcome back. The date is September 17, 1998. It was a Thursday. That morning was a little bit overcast. What I do recall from that morning, I got up fairly early and went for a jog, but not a jog like long distance, only less than a mile. I didn't have that much time due to work, so just enough to complete like a mile and so and come back. But during that time, I had my Walkman on, and it's almost the equivalent version of, I guess, an iPod, right? Um, you could actually get radio stations, and I heard a breaking news out of a radio program station, music, I should say, music radio station, program station, and it was breaking news about a an incident that happened down in Baja, down the Ensenada area after Rosarito, before Ensenada, and um, and for an actual music station to break off and breaking news, it's something of importance. And they had mentioned a mass killing at a ranch down in that area with multiple victims. And it was it's shocking because the fact that multiple people in a ranch, you kind of, if you're gonna do that, you're gonna take care of it in a hush hush situation. You're gonna try to get rid of the evidence. You're gonna try to get rid of everything, but everything was out in the open, and there was multiple bodies, victims laying around a ranch. So I was almost done, so I called it a day and went back and started getting ready for my shift down at I was actually scheduled down in San Isidro, the port, and as it started getting more news, it wasn't like we didn't have the internet. It was around, but it wasn't available to everybody, on their Blackberries. I mean, I didn't have one of them. I had a beeper, and a cell phone, somewhat of a cell phone, right? So at that time, you kind of piece things together. The afternoon newspaper wasn't out yet, so because they would have an actual morning edition and they would follow up with the actual afternoon edition and evening edition of San Diego Union. But this incident happened like about 4 in the morning, and so apparently some hitmen, but these hitmen, they you could know an exact story. They will never know the exact story. There was multiple actual about 15 individuals. I think so, about 15, I believe, or somewhat. It was a large number. But the odd thing was that they were all in uniform. So they had the time to actually provide logistics and uniforms to these individual assassins. And the actual owner of that ranch had his family there along with extended families on one property. And the one that was actually, I guess, the owner of the land, he was a cattleman. He was a cattleman, and he was involved with a lot of actual like rodeo types events. So he was well known throughout the community. And to own actual cattle, I mean, it's very, very profitable for the fact that Mexicans eat a lot of beef, a lot of beef meat. And so to say he owed money or at that sort, no, he did not own any money, you know. And it was also rumored that he was an actual he had control, or he didn't run it. He maybe he funded a cell that actually transported marijuana into the U.S. And if you're actually, you don't have necessarily have to be part of a cartel to actually move actual product across. Just for the fact that if the cartel seems that you are valuable, an asset, they will back you up. They will let you function at your capacity and actual, how do you say it, at your capacity, but at the same time at your pace. And it's however which way you get it across, they don't care how you get it across as long as you get it across. Now you can actually do it by boat, in compartments, in tractor trailers, you name it, they'll find a way to get it through. So if you actually operate a cell, you don't necessarily need to be part of the main cartel that's actually working out of that city. No, it doesn't work that way. But you have to kick something down, or kick something up. And when that's also thrown into the actual equation, now you don't even know what to believe, what not to believe. But what I can tell you is that somebody supplied these fitted uniforms. Not everybody's gonna be the same size. Not everybody's gonna fit into the same boot. And they actually gained entrance into this ranch. And I'm not sure on specifics of this actual ranch because they don't mention it. But down in Baja, if you own some kind of actual agriculture or ranch of this sort, you have a night watchman that at the entrance has a rope. Nothing fancy, nothing. He's not armed or anything, but he's just making sure that nothing gets taken from there or nobody gets in without permission. And you generally tend to actually hire older men that that are of already over age to actually work physical labor. You know what I mean? And it's perfect for them because they can provide a little bit for their families, and they don't pay much, but you still have somebody at that gate. Somebody at that gate that can actually do a whistle, scream, cause a commotion for somebody to actually wake up, pay attention, and actually get out of bed before getting pulled out of bed, right? And so these actual gunmen gain entrance. Um, they all scramble to hit individual. There's multiple houses. They got everybody out of their house, and apparently it did. It was so fast and swift. That's another thing too. It was so fast and swift that nobody from that ranch was actually able to actually get to their actual weapon. Remember, in these ranches, you don't have to have a weapon to fight your enemies with that. No, it's just for your own protection from wildlife. From wildlife, even from your own pets if they get wild. Sometimes, they're animals. They're gonna react in some strange way sometimes, and they need to get handled. And so when these types of actual situations can become an issue, you have to have a long arm. You have to have a rifle, and rifles they can be legally obtained in ranch style environments for hunting. You can own a rifle. You can hunt in Mexico. You can, but you have to actually have the right permits. And this guy, I'm pretty sure he had the right connections to actually to have at least one rifle at the home, and nobody was able to get to any kind of arms. Had they been there before? Had they been given any special walkthroughs, run-throughs, scenarios? They took everybody out, lined them up, and mauled them down. Women, men, children, pregnant women. And a female, 15, I think she was 7 months pregnant. She was able to hide behind some kind of furniture. So they didn't, I don't, they must have not had an official head count of how many relatives were actually living there. But I can tell you they found the people that they want to kill because they weren't looking around for certain individuals, right? And um, any little boy, a boy, young boy, also survived. He was actually shot twice and pretended to be dead. How this is possible? You always hear this too, that people pretend to be dead. That bullet burns. Let me tell you, that bullet burns a lot. I guess with the shock and everything, just pretend you're dead. And I guess I mean, I'd be screaming like a little girl. And there were only two survivors. And the little boy, he's older now. I mean, he's much older now, and he was actually sent out to a village where there's no TVs, no internet, anything of that type, and he's raising cattle. He's raising, he's a ranch. He's working in a ranch. I'm pretty sure they were able to scrape something up for him for his future, through his well, through somebody's actual money from that ranch. It doesn't say exactly what the relationship was to the actual family, his little boy. So I remember showing up to actual to the port to report in, and we're getting kind of bits and pieces of actually what's going on. Of course, the FBI is going to be actual. They're going to have their ears to the, they're going to be actually trying to ear hustle what's going on down there. If it's in a something going to trickle over to the U.S. And since I heard about it that morning, I always said, you know what, there's nobody should be crossing undetected today. Because down at the port, there are certain people, groups, affiliations that can actually call the border, the supervisor's actual area, and make a phone call, and that supervisor will actually direct you to open a certain lane that's closed, so a certain vehicle can get through with no questions asked. No, do not know who's inside. Do not know what's coming through, or what, or when, or how. And the majority of them are all tinted windows and bulletproof. So it's really, really hard to see to the front through the front windshield, especially if it's bulletproof. It throws off that actual that glare. And so when we got the call that evening, and the vehicles were already waiting there at that actual at that gate, a few of us just looked at each other and says, "It can't be." You know, I can see one vehicle, but two vehicles, right? And the vehicle looked they they look like armored vehicles. You cannot tell if they're loaded with people. You cannot tell if they're heavy because it's a heavy vehicle. Therefore, it's going to have the extra shocks, suspension, the actual, heavy duty stuff. So you can't tell if it's a car's loaded just like a regular car if the car's dropped from the back because there's so many people in the back, and or product, or things you're carrying around in a sedan. But that always stuck with me, man. Who was actually in them vehicles? Because that little boy was still in. He got taken to some kind of hospital, and they're not going to have him in that vehicle. They're going to have him in an ambulance, and I'm pretty sure they flew him in to the U.S. to get treatment for his safety and for his wounds. And so, why two cars for that female, that well, the one that hit out? Why would you actually provide two cars? And I want to tell you, this is my opinion, only in my opinion, that it was actually the people who actually did it were in that vehicle coming back across, or hiding, coming to this side to hide out to the actual dust settled. Of course, they found a couple of people with uniforms of the same type. Of course, you're going to find that because they're going to be set up in that way for you to find. And they arrested 10 people. But we already know what's up. You know what I mean? It always stuck with me that maybe, I don't know. I don't know. Like I said, he was a low level actual green dealer. But if he was low level, why would he even risk actually beating the game if he is very successful with his cattle and with actual rodeos. You know, I mean, you can make some good money on them, especially if you're actually putting it together. You know, a lot of money to be made there, and they're always frequented by the community. You know, that happened about 22 years ago. 22 years ago, this September, actually. All right, guys, don't forget to like, subscribe.